Okay, the next several methods we need to discuss deal with characterizing a relationship in the data. So we have all of these features, and we want to know how do features relate to one another. So the first thing we can do is we can calculate a correlation. So if we have two features that are continuously valued, then we can quantify that relationship with the correlation. It's a real number that can be positive, negative, or zero. Positive numbers mean that the two features tend to increase or decrease together. Negative correlations mean that one feature goes up as the other one goes down, or vice versa. Zero means that as one of the features goes up or down, there's no consistent, discernible change in the other. So the most common way that we can measure correlation is with Pearson's correlation coefficient. It can take on any real value between -1 and 1. We can get correlations with the core method applied to a data frame. It'll produce a symmetric matrix with ones on the diagonal because every single feature is correlated perfectly with itself. And then the off-diagonal elements, it's symmetric, so the 1, 2 element will be the same as the 2, 1 element. Those off-diagonals are the correlations between different features. And so here we can see ones on the diagonal, and then these are the feeling thermometers for different politicians. So here we have Trump and Obama negatively correlated, as one might expect. Obama and Biden, so here's the column for Obama, the row for Biden, very positively correlated, again, as expected. So the core function, the core method here is great for just seeing a whole bunch of correlations really quickly like this. There are other ways to understand the relationship between features. One is with conditional means and other statistics. So if we have a categorical feature and a continuous one, and we want to understand the relationship between the categorical and continuous feature, then we can create a table with one row for every category of the categorical feature, and then columns to represent statistics that we calculate for the continuous feature within each category. And so for this, we use group by and aggregate the way we did in Module 8. So in this particular example, I defined two new functions. One just returns the 25th percentile, and the other the 75th percentile. Okay? And then I apply to my data group by party ID. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me one row for each of the party affiliations. And then I'm going to aggregate FT Biden. So in this case, I'm looking at the relationship between approval of Biden and party affiliation. So within categories of party ID, I want the mean thermometer score for Biden and the median thermometer score for Biden, the 25th and 75th percentiles. Round everything to 2 decimal places. And this is what it gives me. So we can use the same exact functionality, group by and ag, for any kind of comparison of a categorical feature with a continuous feature, and many different statistics that we can populate the table with. Okay, a cross-tabulation describes the relationship between two categorical features. One of the categories goes on the rows and the other goes on the columns. So here, I'm computing the crosstab with the PD crosstab function with categories of favoring universal basic income on the rows, and then ideology, conservative, liberal, or moderate, here in the columns. Inside each cell is a raw count of how many people had each category. So we had 55 people who were conservative, but also said that they favor a universal basic income a great deal. 55 unusual people right here. Okay? It's much more usual for conservative people, 717, to oppose universal basic income a great deal. So here we have a crosstab with the raw counts in it. Now there are many other kinds of crosstabs and things we can do to make this table better. The first thing we can do is we can reorder the categories. So previously, the categories in both the rows and the columns were in alphabetical order. But I want them to be in different orders. I would like these to be ordered from opposition to favoring the universal basic income. And I'd like the columns to be arranged from liberal, moderate, conservative, just like that. So in order to do that, the first thing I have to do is I have to set both I have to set both the universal income and ideology features to be categorical. And then I can use the cat.reorder categories method to come up with a new ordering for these categories. And then that ordering is how they appear in the crosstab. Now, raw counts are not always the most informative statistic to place within the cells. We can convert these counts to percents. So there are a few different kinds of percents. First, we can use row percents with normalized index. A row percent calculates the quotient of the count in each cell versus the sum across a row. And the way these are interpreted, of those who oppose a universal basic income a great deal, 5.5% are liberal, 22.1% are moderate, 72.35% are conservative. Okay? So those are row percents. If we wanted column percents, we use normalized columns. And the way these are interpreted are of people who identify as liberal, 24.4% favor universal basic income a great deal. 18.8% favored a moderate amount, right? Of those who are conservative, 62.2% oppose it a great deal. And then cell percents calculate the percentage out of the total number of observations. So 24.7% of people are both conservative and oppose a universal basic income a great deal. So those are cross-tabulations. Now we can also populate the cells in a cross-tabulation with something other than a count or a percent. In this case, I'm creating a cross-tab of where people live. Do they live in a city, a rural area, suburb, or a town? And ideology, okay? But instead of a count, I'm putting in the mean value of partisanship. Now, partisanship is a new feature I created that calculates the difference between the Biden thermometer and the Trump thermometer. So that positive values mean that people favor Biden more, and negative values mean that people favor Trump more. So among people who are living in cities and who consider themselves liberal, they favor Biden quite a bit more than Trump, right? For moderates, everybody favors Biden more than Trump, especially true for suburbs. So that's an interesting result there.